The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this broadcast or podcast without the express written consent of Spaced Out Radio or Spaced Out Radio Limited is strictly prohibited. Listener discretion is advised. Are you experienced?
Stop right there!
From high atop the mountains of British Columbia to you, listening around the world, this is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
They let us play with all our toys, they let us think that we're big boys, they let us make a lot of noise, but we ain't rule the world. They let us think we're Superman.
You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, on iTunes and TuneIn. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio Show, or on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show.
I try to act so cool, but you know I'm just a fool for you. I will stop till I reach the top just to be there with you.
Dave, oh Dave, are you playing with Bigfoot and aliens again?
Dad, you gotta stop haunting the ghost. It's scaring them.
All right, seriously, put down the pointy sticks.
Okay! Game on! Game on! Game on!
The password is...
All right.
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride on Spaced Out Radio. Mr. Bumblefoot, Dave is ready for liftoff.
I try to act so cool, but you know I'm just a fool for you.
Seriously, Dave? Really? Aren't you a little old for a tinfoil hat?
Hello, Toby. Bye-bye. Love you. Bye-bye.
Please take your seat about way. We're with you. It's clear for takeoff. Start. 2, 1. Boost ignition and liftoff.
I'm such a lucky guy, 'cause after all this time, it's like the deeper I go, the deeper I fall. The deeper I go, the deeper I fall.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, and it's great to have you along for the ride on this Friday, August 4th, Saturday, August 5th. If you are on the East Coast or across the pond, hope you've had a great day and night. We are live right here in the Great White North on top of the Smoky Mountains of central British Columbia. Yes, the forest fires are still burning as we are here 7 nights a week. We welcome in everyone listening in on our terrestrial stations, WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead. We are live as well on the United Public Radio Network on 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. We're also live on spacedoutradio.com, Spreaker, KTLK The Fringe FM, Renegade Talk Radio out of Las Vegas, the High Plains Talk Radio Network, and if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Horns up if you love our music. Intro from Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL, formerly of Guns N' Roses, currently of Art of Anarchy. Bumblefoot is the official sound of SOR. Now, if you want to follow us on social media, you could do so on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, you could follow me at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download our shows from iTunes. We're also on RadioGuide.fm, Player.fm, TalkStream Live, Stitcher, and the big one, we're on iHeartRadio in the United States. If you also check out our website, we're live there as well at spacedoutradio.com. And if you head over to patreon.com for as low as $1 a month, you can become a patron of SOR as well. Now, you got to do me a favor. If you want to take part in this show, you got to sign into one of the chat rooms, either on Revolution Radio, Spreaker, the UPRN chat room, or join us on Facebook for free at the SOR Space Travelers Club. Or if you're on Twitter, be like Dennis, be like Derek, be like Marcus, be like Canadian Joe, John Porter. Skeptic, where are you? I know you're there somewhere. You're hiding. But they use hashtag Spaced Out Radio to connect with me live during the show as well. Now, if you head to our website, for $5 a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. And as of right now, you can go to the Spaced Out Radio store, pick up a t-shirt, poster, or a sticker. We also have the Encounter Online, dealing with everything paranormal, courtesy of our editors, Eric Markham and Everett Themer. You can check out my latest blog there as well. And if you've had an experience you can't explain, do me a favor, fill out an SOR Sightlines report. You can also watch some videos, either from Bumblefoot, Tim Doyle from UFO Seekers, and Leslie Mitchell Clark's Contact TV also have some great video viewing as well. It's the first Friday of the month, which means we have the ET Connection on tap with one of our more popular guests, R. Keith Andrews. Not our Keith Andrews, the R for Ronald. Keith is a lifelong experiencer and contactee when it comes to dealing with extraterrestrials. Keith is someone, well, you either love his message or you don't. He's used to that, but around these parts of SOR headquarters, we're big fans of his. Even though Kim Gandy, our own director of business management, holds an R. Keith Andrews party once a month and never invites Keith or myself down to Florida to celebrate with her. Thanks there, KJ. Shaking our fists at you. A man who is intuitive and communicative, Keith has developed one of the best libraries in his own mind of different species and different experiences, helping people understand what they are going through when abducted or making contact. Tonight we'll get into your personal experiences. So if you're in the chat rooms, this is about you tonight. It isn't about Keith getting into what he knows or what he can explain. It's nothing political. It's nothing exopolitical. Okay, it's about your experiences. So if you have an experience, make sure you type your questions in capital letters. Keith or myself will get to them as soon as we possibly can. R. Keith Andrews, my good friend, how are you doing tonight?
Not bad at all, thanks, Dave. I do appreciate the intro, and I'll tell you, I'm looking at the chat rooms, and they are just lit up wild tonight already.
Absolutely.
You must have gotten the word out rather well.
Well, you know what? That is our media person, Catherine James, who takes care of all of that, so I'm going to give her the kudos. She deserves that.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for that, Catherine.
Absolutely. And Keith, you know what? You're someone, and I want to break this down for a lot of people because you're somewhat of a controversial figure. There are people who think you're absolutely full of crap, that nobody has had those experiences, that nobody knows everything that you know. But then there are people who you've gone to conferences, you've spoken at conferences, you have big fans in here. You and I have talked personally a plethora of times where we could tell you're the real deal. How do you find that balance of taking the positive with the critique?
Well, you definitely have to focus on the positive side of it. What most people don't realize is I'm a better critic of my own stuff than anybody else. Basically, what you have to look at is it's what we're talking about is almost impossible to prove, especially when you think that my initial interaction was in the military. And let's face it, the military hides more information than they care to ever tell anybody. So I just look at the people that go, oh, you're completely off your nut. And I go, that is possible. And if you can ever prove to me or give me something even remotely that will take some of this mess out of my head, let me know. I'm all for it. Because I'll tell you, some of the things I remember seeing, I would just as soon forget.
And that's why we love you here, my friend. That is why we love you. Thank you so much, for coming on the first Friday of every month. That's why we do this show called the ET Connection. Now, last night on the show at about 11:25, and I know you were listening in, I started having a lot of goosebumps, like I was being watched out my window again. And immediately you jumped online and started messaging me saying Carl was back. And I remember the feeling that Carl was there. And so after the show with Olaf Phillips, I always talk to our guest after the show. And I was talking with Olaf for about 15 minutes after the show before I called Keith. And I was underneath my carport, just kind of looking around, and it's very dark in my area. You have to understand, my street does not even have street lights. It is dark. And I was watching something walking in between my vehicles. I saw it twice. The energy was strange. The goosebumps didn't leave me. Where I have been implanted, it was pulsating. I was having headaches. It was absolutely trippy. And I had not experienced that in a long, long time. So after I got off the phone with Olaf, I went back in my house, grabbed a drink of water because I was feeling very dehydrated, and walked out on my patio, and that's when I called Keith. So Keith all of a sudden says, Dave, and I'm paraphrasing, cutting down everything that happened. Okay? Keith says, Dave, have you ever heard, or have you heard any strange sounds going on? And I said, what kind of strange sounds? And Keith said, like a clicking. And right before he had asked that question, I heard this kind of sound in my backyard. You know, remember in the movie Signs, when they were running through the cornfield and all you heard on the the handsets was, that kind of thing? So Keith says, no, it sounds a little bit different. And Keith, I'm going to get you to make the sound.
Well, forgive me if it doesn't come across as loud as possible, but I'll do what I can. But quite literally, it is this.
Okay, so if
I don't know if you hear that or not.
Well, we tried our best, and it did come across a little bit quiet, but if you heard that exact sound that Keith just made was happening in my backyard last night. I'd never heard that sound before. And the energy was weird. Like I said, I was goosebumped all over. I was literally on edge. My head was killing me. Where I'm implanted in the back of my head was absolutely pulsating. And you could feel them. And you said there were 3 there, right, Keith?
Correct.
So then, after this happened, I felt I needed to go for a drive. And so I took Keith with me on my phone. Bluetooth kicked in, so that way I don't have to get arrested by the police for talking on a cell phone, which is a $541 fine here in British Columbia.
And how stupid is that?
I know. And I don't know who comes up with these things. But I drove into town, grabbed myself a drink and a donut, because if you've never had a Dutchy donut from Tim Hortons, you're missing out. And then I drove back to my area to a little lake called Sepa Lake. And there's a pull-off there. And the sky was opened up with stars. I never saw anything. I saw one satellite. Could feel the energy of them around this lake. Never saw a thing. And then everything just kind of faded away. Keith, I want to get your opinion of what happened last night when you and I talked on the phone starting on the patio.
Well, to start with, you were certainly dealing with watchers. In other words, there's no question what they were. We were dealing with Graves. We were dealing with Carl. But they were trying to gauge whether or not, because of the energy around the place, they were still, especially where it came to Carl himself, wasn't in bad shape. The other two, on the other hand, not so much. So they were trying to gauge exactly where things were standing, just whether or not Dave was going to, quite frankly, freak out on them or create an added problem. So they were taking their sweet time, but they were certainly trying to watch what was going on, trying to get a gauge on what was going on. And the funny thing with them is that they do have the ability, the Greys do have the ability to offset where they're looking, like where they're standing, which is why I told Dave to focus his eyesight at about the 20 to 25 foot mark, but to focus his concentration at closer to the 30. Essentially looking out with the side of his eyes. The reason for it is it makes it easier to actually draw them into focus. So of course they circled around from one side of the yard over to what turned out to be right over to where you apparently have your cars parked. To check at that, and quite frankly, to take a look at the cars. But don't worry, no sabotage intended. It's just ground-based vehicles are a little odd from their standpoint. They're extremely inefficient. So they were certainly talking to each other, right? They were having a very clear conversation from my standpoint. Dave, if you think about it, I don't know if you said or if it was somebody else you were talking to had mentioned that one of them was taller, and that's because that was one of the controllers.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what's funny is, getting back to the clicking noise, I heard the clicking noise in two different areas. One of the clicking noises was actually in my backyard. The other one was up my driveway a bit by my trees, in between my neighbor's house and mine. Couldn't see him. But I recall he may have even been on the other side of the fence where my neighbor's is. And we just got those cheap-ass, metal fences that, that you string across just to keep the dogs in, and the deer can jump over, no problem.
Right.
But the clicking was happening from different areas. And it was so funny because when you did that clicking sound to me on the phone, and the one that you did here on the show, right, like immediately after you did that, there was a click again, like, whatever it was. I don't know how to do it, but it was crazy, man. It was just absolutely crazy about that going on.
Well, the way the clicking is actually made, at least with most people, is at the base of the throat. It's not actually the tongue you're using. It's actually a closing of the airwave, which is why it is so hard for most people to deal with.
Why last night? Why did they come out of all nights last night?
Well, I have my theories on that, but quite frankly, you asked me to keep certain things under wraps, and therefore, I'm not going to answer that question. I will answer it for you a little later, but I'm not about to on here because of your request.
Absolutely. Let's just say that old Davey here has been under a lot of stress the last couple of months. and, going back to March. And, I'm not going to get into detail about what's going on in my personal life right now, but I will say this, that it's a very troubling time right now. And literally, I have been at my wit's end. And so Keith tends to think or believe that they were coming to check up on me to see if I was okay. Is this correct, Keith?
Correct.
Exactly.
You've still got a job to do. And, quite frankly, we need more to the point, you need all the assistance you can get to get this station out to the general masses, get it out into the main media, because this is one of the few stations that actually focuses on trying to get the message out instead of making it sound more like Hollywood. And don't get me wrong, I got nothing against Hollywood. I love a lot of their movies.
No, I very much understand that. But it's still troublesome, though, to be standing out there all in the lone, all in the dark, trying to figure out what is going on. And you can't see them, but they could see you. And even though you're seeing little things move on the side of your, out of the corner of your eye, but when I saw those two creatures move in between my vehicles, it was very, very obvious because I was looking straight at them when I saw it, but it was just weird to take that when you see things moving out of the corner of your eye, because normally you don't trust that. But in this situation, because I had been there before and in that situation before, I knew what to look for.
Yeah. And, experience always is, or usually is, rather beneficial. There are some things that are definitely not something that you want to always remember. And Dennis is asking in Spreaker here, he goes, so Dave is always telepathically connected to Carl? Always is, in all fairness, likely overstated. However, is he on a short call? From my standpoint, yeah. Just so you know, you're being eavesdropped on there.
Yeah, well, I know that, but it kind of shocked me, like the entire feeling. I remember, like, the minute I picked it up, while Olaf Phillips was speaking last night, the minute I picked it up, I just knew, Keith. I knew it was Carl. The energy just felt the same. And when you have up close and personal ET contact like that, like what happened to me on April 20th, 2015, while broadcasting this show, when Carl appeared at my window and we made eye contact with each other, okay, that feeling, that energy, that entire, I don't even know the word I'm looking for. I'm so hyped up about it. It just was so recognizable to me that I just knew it was him. And that's why I had no problem coming on the air last night saying, I think Carl's here. I strongly believe Carl is here.
I'm just looking at while you're saying that, I'm looking at this, and Joe in SOR, he says, when aliens surround me at my house, my first thought is not, I'll go get a donut in town and then park at the lake all by myself.
I was hungry, Joe, and you don't, for you Americans down there who have no idea the power of Tim Hortons, okay? You have no idea of the power of Tim Hortons. You have no idea what it's like going to a lake without a donut and a bottle of Pepsi, or if you're into coffee, grabbing a hot coffee. Okay, so before you criticize me for having a donut fetish, especially these Dutchy donuts, because they're square and they have raisins in them, and they're coated in that honey glazed sugar, and they're soft and juicy, and they're the best donut. And Tim Hortons actually pulled them off the shelves for a couple years, and it pissed me off. And by gosh, on Canada Day, they brought back the Dutchy. I'm eating those things as much as I can in case Tim Hortons goes all idiots again and pulls them off the shelves. But you don't understand the power of the Dutchy donut.
In all fairness, Dave, I don't think that Joe was giving you a bad time so much as saying, "Holy mackerel, you got one heck of a backbone rushing out into the middle of that."
Well, I understand that, but there is a time and a place for donuts.
Well, yes. See, the States have another one. Like when I was down there the last time, I got into their Dunkin' Donuts, and they're not a bad run.
They're not a bad run either. They're not a bad run. But here's the thing. If I was getting abducted last night, I'm going on a full stomach. And if I'm going out that way, Keith, I am literally going out on my terms.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? I'm going out on my terms with a Dutchie donut and a cold Pepsi.
I don't know. I don't agree with your choice in Pepsi, but that's just because it's too sweet from my standpoint. Me, I'll stand by Coke without a problem if I'm going to go that route. But the idea of going out on your own terms, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So if they were to take me last night, at least I would have got one final donut in my mouth.
Yeah, because we can safely say they don't make them up there.
Exactly. And like Canadian Joe said earlier, he doesn't look at donuts because it affects his waistline. At this point, when I got aliens around my backyard making these clicking sounds and they're calling me down to the lake all alone, I'm going for a bloody donut. I went the opposite direction, 10 kilometers, man, to go get a donut before racing back to go see the aliens that never even appeared. Damn it, Carl. Damn you, Carl. What was I supposed to do?
Get Tim's to deliver.
I understand that, but they don't. Okay, for you Americans, it would be like, maybe not, because your McDonald's burgers aren't as good as ours up here. But it would be like having a Big Mac, okay? You got to have that final Big Mac. And I love a good Big Mac. I really do. All right? So we don't have McDonald's in my town. We're not that lucky yet. We haven't grown up to that point yet. But we do have Tim Hortons. So I went and got the donut. So, Joe, I hope that solves your curiosity as to why I went to grab a donut.
Priorities first. If I'm leaving, I'm taking a care package.
Well, I could have got the Timbits, but I didn't. I didn't think I needed that many.
Didn't you ever hear about you got to take them to share?
Well, from what I hear, the aliens are vegan and the Greys don't eat anyways.
Boy, did you hear wrong.
Wow.
Very few aliens very, very few aliens are vegan to start with. And the Greys actually do eat. Now, granted, what they eat is a little bit questionable as to whether I'd want it on my plate, but, to each their own. There was a comment back here, and I forget exactly who, but somebody asked in Spreaker, so forgive me for not remembering who, if implants are always on, and the answer is yeah, quite frankly, they are. It's kind of an interesting situation when you start looking at just exactly how much is what I want to call extrapolation. One of the biggest things that people forget is that the various different races out there, like the Greys are the true scientists of the party. They're the ones that developed the hybridization program. They're the ones that are working to make the communication lines a little bit easier by growing, quite frankly, cultural interpreters. Milo asked if they have the way Milo in Spreaker put it is, do aliens poop or excrete waste through pores? That depends entirely on the race. But they all have to get rid of their waste products somehow. It's just a question of the different math, the different configuration. But no, you can pretty much bet your bottom dollar there, Dave, that that there is going to be more activity now. As it was just a question of make sure everything is running properly first, and then carry on. Because you've still got a lot of work that's got to be done.
No, I know, and I realize that, But you know what? Honestly, last night, man, I would have went. And I would have been okay with that. And who knows how long I would have gone to, because I know you were saying last night that if they do take you, are you ready for an extended vacation? Yes, I am. I am really ready. I need at least a couple years off. I really do.
Well, from what I've gathered from other people, that's probably a really bad idea if you want to have any sort of a life on this planet. Okay.
No, I understand that. I mean, there are people whom I would miss, and I would definitely miss Dutchy Donuts at Tim Hortons. Definitely miss that. I mean, I will also miss Taco Bell. I will. Taco Bell is the bomb. I know a lot of our American listeners, aren't big fans of Taco Bell. Me? Oh, that's fine dining right there.
You got to set your sights a little higher.
Not away, man. No way.
Cactus Club, but...
Oh, yes. I'm not saying I'm saying for a quick meal, Taco Bell with the hot sauce. Oh, yeah. Okay, now my mouth is watering. Now I'm getting pissed off because the closest Taco Bell to me is... Hold on. How far is that? It's a 2.5 hour drive. So let's just get off the whole Taco Bell thing.
Yeah, that's just going to annoy you.
Yeah. It's really annoying me. So, Keith, I'm going to ask you again, and I know I asked you this earlier, but I didn't really give you a chance to expand. Okay? What was the purpose of last night? I know they were checking on me to see if I was doing okay, but why do that? What was the purpose of that?
Well, with all the stress that you've been going through, and rest assured, they know better than many just exactly how much, because you are right, they have tagged you. The reality is that you've been vacillating on a number of decisions, and they need to make sure that you're actually still staying focused on pulling things back into balance and getting this show to do what it's supposed to. Getting the station to do what it's supposed to. It's a very hard thing to break into into the big ranks, because the big ranks are, for the most part, bought and paid for. Okay, but the big rank, you got to understand, when the contracts were originally written way back before the Second World War, way before, like, quite frankly, in many cases, we're talking centuries, but they were written, the contracts that were there were supposed to be that that the governments were supposed to use the technology to help mankind work together and evolve, get up to speed to become part of the galactic consortium. And therefore, since that backfired, since the governments and the major corporations dropped the ball in such a massive way, they have now turned around, the off-worlders have turned around and are targeting the smaller sites. Okay? And quite frankly, yours happens to be one of them. It's not the only one, because let's face it, there's a lot of countries around. Okay, but in order for this site to stay in action, you have to be still there. And they stepped in the other part of it is you've been asking for it for so long, and of course, we're sitting here watching things happen, and now it's become an issue that in order to take this to the next level, we're going to need the assistance of the people, of the listening audience, whether they're on Spreaker, on SOR, on Twitter, or any one of the, of the many, many radio stations that you're already working with. Any help is going to be beneficial to do it. Okay. It's funny. I've been telling people since, basically since I started, that, for pity's sakes, if you've got questions, drop me a line or get a hold of Dave and get the questions to me through him. And we ended up, it just came to mind when we're talking about the contracts and why they came looking.
Sure.
Jeff Horn, and I quite frankly forget which one of the chat rooms he's in. I think it's SOR, but I could be wrong.
It's Spreaker, I believe. He's in Spreaker.
He's in Spreaker, okay. But he actually did send me a number of questions that he wanted to make sure, and the way he put it was, I'd like you to answer them on the radio, on the show. So, quite frankly, that's where that comes in. And the issue of the contracts was one of the ones that he asked is, what was the contract for? In this case, it applies very directly because Dave, you're working so hard to try and get the message out, to let people know that, yes, there are problems out there. The off-worlders aren't all, shall we say, buttercups and roses, but they're also not all out to try and kill you. Like Gogo is asking in Spreaker, she's asking if they would take Dave or anyone for an extended length of time, and would it be an enjoyable experience if so? Well, in all fairness, Gogo, that really depends entirely on which race grabs you. If it's done on a voluntary base, you can bet it's going to be a little overwhelming to start with. But certainly not a bad thing if they get their way. There are some races that does not apply with. One thing I was told very clearly, though, Dave, was once it became clear that once you recognized that Carl was there, they did note a very definitive shift in your energy patterns. Almost like a booster shot, if you will.
Explain that a little bit for those of us, such as maybe this host, who don't really get that.
Well, the reality is it's very exciting and very disturbing in most cases the first time somebody ends up with a visit. And in this case, you've been asking for the last, I guess it's been almost 2 years now, as recollection goes. You've been asking for him to show up, and the jump in your energy, the excitement in your energy when it dawned on you, when it became clear that, this really was happening, he really had come back, was just remarkable to watch. I know you've got a couple of other people in the chat rooms that pick up on the energy as well. Just from my standpoint, I'm not entirely certain which ones they are, so I do my best not to stick my foot in my mouth.
Well, last night it was there was Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. He literally got one of his remote viewers in on it, and I'm still waiting for the results from Eric on that one, if his remote viewer Tony was able to get in. And Robert White from Australia was the other one who immediately jumped in, and he was actually messaging me while I was talking to you on the patio, because he was picking up from Australia what you were picking up. It was pretty cool to have both of you kind of connecting in the same way, although, almost 10,000 miles away.
Yeah, I mean, it's only 8 if you go straight through the Earth. But, and I'm sure this applies to him as well, but I know for me, it is very much it's actually, if you will, reassuring, or I don't know if that's the right word for it, but it's nice to know, it's nice getting the corroboration from somebody else. Like I learned to trust my instincts a long time ago, and getting it corroborated by somebody I've never spoken to, and especially when they're on the other side of the planet, is rather a nice feel as well.
Mm-hmm. I can totally see that. I can totally see where you are going with that. And so, we've got only about 15 minutes left before we got to go to break. And I believe Jeff said in his questions that he doesn't know how much longer he could only tune in for about the first hour and a bit. So I'd like you to get to Jeff's questions if you don't mind, because we want to do that for him.
Not at all. I mean, let's face it. He took the time to send them down. What he asked, he said during one of the shows, I had mentioned that Earth was built. And what he asked, what Jeff was asking is, if it comes apart, when the planet dies, which it's going to do, but not for several billion years yet. But he asked, when it does die, will it be rebuilt? And because of my memories, quite frankly, I can unequivocally say, yes, it will. Okay, I've watched it happen. I've watched what people call the Big Bang. I've actually watched it occur 3 times. I think I've watched it 4, but I haven't bothered checking back quite that far. So, it's quite a remarkable thing to watch. But will it be rebuilt? The answer is yes. There's no question there at all. Of course, needless to say, it's not likely to have humans as humans know it today. It'll be a whole different set of worlds. Now, the third one, the first one obviously was about the contracts. The third one that he had was, everybody knows about the third dimension. And he asked if there is a first and a second dimension, and if so, how do they work? Well, basically, yes, they do exist. Prime example is if you take a look at just simply a sheet of paper with writing on it, that's a two-dimensional object. Okay. Now, is there a second dimension? The answer is yes. But mankind cannot survive in 2 dimensions or in 1. It would absolutely decimate their system. Okay, it would be the same side effect. And this is where I run into a bit of a challenge with people when they start talking about off-worlders from different dimensions. The reality of it, from everything I've seen, is they don't come from different dimensions. They come from different vibratory rates. Because if you take a 2-dimensional item and try and pull it into 3 dimensions, you're going to tear the fabric apart of the item that you're bringing in or of the creature. Okay, if you take a 3rd-dimensional entity and try and yank it into 4 dimensions, you've got a massive problem on your hands. It's going to come apart because the cell structure isn't designed to handle it. Same as if you try and take a 4th-dimensional item and shove it into 3-dimensional space, it'll rupture. The sea fairies, when they started taking humans to try and get to know them, they discovered the hard way that you can't take humans to where the sea fairies are without some pretty serious modifications. Surprisingly enough, humans don't breathe well underwater. And the 4th one is, Jeff asked if there are less technologically advanced races than mankind. And the answer is definitively yes. There absolutely are. However, are there less technologically advanced yet spacefaring races? They're the lowest of the spacefaring races. have around about the same level of technology that mankind has. The reason being, if you don't have that level, you're not getting off the planet. So, I mean, there are individuals with less that don't have the technological experience that are off the planet. But that's because of other races picking them up. Now, hopefully that answers without getting too carried away on them. And I will absolutely, offer more information on that side of it. But those are the 4 questions that Jeff took the time to actually write and, inquire. And I love the fact that he wrote in, and when he did, he says, can you answer these on the radio tomorrow, during the show?
That's what we love. That's why we love the participation from the crowd. Let's get to a couple of questions here. This one coming from the SOR Space Travelers from Kim. And she's got the party going on with all her friends. And once again, we're not invited, Keith, down in Florida. Story's getting old, Kim. The story is getting old. She is asking, if they did take Dave, what kind of food would he have to eat?
Well, for lack of a better way of putting it, Terran food, but in all fairness, it's probably going to be replicated.
Mm-hmm.
They do have some stock, depending on who takes him. If it's the Greys, it's 9 times out of 10 replicated. Astronauts would understand it all too well. There are, if they were to take you up, for instance, to one of their motherships, they've got real food available. At which point, you actually can end up with either Terran food or something that's similar to it. But you can scrap the idea of getting your fast food.
What are you talking about? They don't have a food court that has the City Walk with Taco Bell beside and Cinnabon and then a McDonald's and, for old school's sake, an A&W? They don't have that?
Not to speak of.
Come on. You're ruining the picture in my mind right now. Here I was thinking food court, How do you have a food court without New York fries or something along those lines? Come on, Keith. You're breaking my heart here.
Well, you can go to the food court, and they do have their selections of food that you can eat. But you're not going to like most of it.
Do they have Tim Hortons Dutchie Donuts? That's what I want.
Only if they order in before they leave, and so far, I haven't heard of anybody actually doing that.
Damn it. You're breaking my heart here. Breaking my heart. Let's get to another question here. Joe is asking, is Dave going to start using cameras of some kind, or are we going to have to staple a camera to his forehead? Not nice, Joe. Not nice.
I think we can get away with Velcro, but...
You know what? Joe just rubs it in because he's got really nice hair. And he knows that I'm jealous of his hair. So he just rubs it on in, gets his little pointy stick shot in there somehow. Let's get to another question here. Tripp is asking, Mr. Andrews, do you think the upcoming solstice has anything to do with Carl coming back? Seems more people are having sightings lately.
With Carl himself, quite possibly... simply because of the metabolic alterations that were taking place and were being recorded based on the stress levels. And of course, the solstice does amplify the energy outputs. So, it wouldn't be a surprise at all. Would it be the primary reason in Carl's case particularly? Not from what I understand of it. That was more an issue of Carl checking in to see, quite frankly, how Dave is doing, whether he's holding up and whether he's still not so much got the energy to do it, so much as got the drive, because the energy can be amplified by simply getting the right people connected.
For once, I made Mr. Skeptic on #SpacedOutRadio laugh.
Oh?
So, Yes, with the food court comment. Oh yes, and Bobby says you have to have an Orange Julius in there. You have to have an Orange Julius. So, yes, we need an Orange Julius there as well.
Well, here's the thing. Now, he's going to be happy about this. Not that they've got an Orange Julius, but they do have fresh fruit. Okay, and therefore, fresh fruit juice is easy to come by. Now, if he's hoping for the hot dogs and what have you, well, that's another problem.
That's see, you're blowing it right there again, man, because Orange Julius makes a very good pizza dog. They make a very good pizza dog. And you get that with one of their strawberry smoothies that they make there, or strawberry Julius's with add some blueberries in there. That's good stuff when you combine that with the hot. Yeah, that's good stuff when you combine that with the pizza dog.
Well, it is, but that doesn't mean it's good for you.
Well, we never said it had to be good for you.
If you're off-world, it does.
We got to teach some of these aliens how to sin. That's what we need to do.
Oh, trust me, you really don't.
we need to fatten them up a little bit. We need to
They've got the whole issue of that problem down to a fine art. You notice the number of people that are dying out there?
Well, I realize that, but, I want to give a shout-out. Brand new listener on Twitter, @OrbGardener from Glacier, Washington. Thank you so much for checking us out. Make sure when you're tweeting me, use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio so we can connect live, because we got a bunch of people using hashtag Spaced Out Radio right now. We'd love for you to join us. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to earn your listening ears, man. That's really cool, especially so close in Washington State, if that's where you are. So thanks so much. Anyways, sorry, Keith. I just wanted to give that shout out there.
Oh, your apologizing is kind of like saying, I'm sorry, I'm the host of the show and I'm doing my own thing. Well, buddy, you know as well as I do. It's the whole Canadian apology thing. We got to apologize for everything. So I guess the thing about apology, when I was growing up, I used to have a problem with the whole concept of apologizing if I felt that I shouldn't be apologizing. So I developed a way of dealing with it that worked well from my end. I'm not entirely certain it was the best method, but if I was ever forced to apologize and I didn't feel I should, I'd turn around and go, please accept my most insincere apology to date. And, for me that worked. I don't know if that means I'm not exactly a standard Canadian, but...
Yeah, but your hair's not too bad, so we'll give you... You got good hockey hair, so that's all that matters. That's all that really matters. Let's sneak in one more question here, so we got about 2.5 minutes before we got to go to break here. Robin is asking in the SOR Space Travelers Club, why do some aliens like the form of owls? Because I had an owl check me out right when I was outside.
Well, in all fairness, it's actually because of the fact that the brainwave on the owl is easier to actually work with if it's an actual owl. But most people, because of the size, grays actually can be mistaken for an owl or vice versa, simply because of their size. But the neat part about it, and this is where it gets to be a little confusing for many people, there is another race that most people don't hear about called the Uka. And they are, well, simply put, they're owls. They're sentient, they're spacefaring, and the reason they like the form is because they were born that way. That would be about the reason, right?
But a lot of people also, Keith, tend to believe that owls are if you look at their face, they do look like a gray. And a lot of people believe that the grays will disguise themselves as owls before you're abducted that night.
And many times they do, and the reason being, that's what I was referring to by their configuration. Because of the way that greys are actually built, it's very easy to modify optical inference in a human to overlay it with what looks like an owl because of the similarities. Okay. That's the important factor from that end is it's very easy to modify most humans' perceptions. And that, by the way, has absolutely nothing to do with the intelligence level or the wisdom level of the human. It has to do with literally the biochemical, the biochemical imprints.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, my friend, what we're going to do here is we're going to hop out for our first break of the night. Our Keith Andrews comes on Spaced Out Radio the first Friday of every month. His next appearance will be on September 1st. Gotta love it when Keith is around. The energy that he brings is phenomenal. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. We'll be back with hour number 2 right after this.
365 days a year, we're in the field, investigating UFO sightings, talking to alien abductees, and visiting secret military locations like Area 51. We're UFO Seekers, official partner of Spaced Out Radio. Follow our daily search for the truth at ufoseekers.com or like us on social media. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
From coast to coast to coast, Blacklight Uncharted is taking on the paranormal across Canada. From ghostly hauntings to the UFOs flying above in conjunction with MUFON Canada, we're closely investigating what's going on in the northern skies and checking out the apparitions that walk among us. Check out our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com. We want to know your thoughts, we want to hear your experiences, and we want you to share your stories. The answers are out there, and we intend to find them.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
It's paranormal news at its finest. Welcome to The Encounter. At spaceoutradio.com, The Encounter online is SOR's trusted news source for everything weird and strange going on around the world. This is news editor Eric Markham. Our team of journalists are scouring the planet for those strange stories that rarely make the mainstream. No fear-mongering or fake news here. Head over to spaceoutradio.com and encounter The Encounter.
Want to learn more about aliens, cover-ups, conspiracies, cryptids, and the paranormal? All you have to do is tune in S4 as we take over the Spaced Out Radio night, starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, each and every Saturday night, right after Spaced Out Saturdays. Hi there, this is Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. Join me, Corey Ruiz, and friends as we discuss the hot topics of the night. It's fun, entertaining, and as dark as the night. Find us at spacedoutradio.com.
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
Are you an experiencer? Have you had run-ins with strange creatures you can't explain? ETs, Dogman, Bigfoot, werewolves? They're enough to scare the daylights out of anyone. Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski from your 4-Cop. And on the last Monday of every month, you can listen to me and the host, Dave Scott, talk about the weird and the strange being reported on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going to bring my investigations and sources, you bring your experiences, and we'll figure out the rest together. Strange Days on Spaced Out Radio. Come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com.
Want a place to share your experiences without feeling judged? we have the place for you. If you've experienced sightings or contact with ETs, ghosts, cryptids, or UFOs, and you'd like someone to confidentially look into the matter, just fill out an SOR Sightlines report. Our goal is to help you get the answers you need to the experiences you've had with our professional team of researchers. Your information stays 100% confidential. The SOR Sightlines report. Fill out your experience today only at spacedoutradio.com.
Psychic Sundays, spiritual communication, ET contact, Sasquatch in your backyard. We will have it all on Cosmic Passport with me, Elizabeth Anglin. Each Sunday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, at spacedoutradio.com, I will take you on a journey of enlightenment. The goal is learning from the soul on out. We'd love it if you joined our experience. Cosmic Passport, heard Sundays at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
From British Columbia to Northern California, Pacific North Weird has Cascadia covered. Check out our feature videos at spacedoutradio.com, where I, Vincent Zunza, and my super sleuth partner Alexandra Sullivan track down the weird and strange stories from around the Pacific Northwest, from Bigfoot to Mel's Hole and everything in between. This is what makes life exciting. So why report the normal when we can report the Pacific North Weird? Right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio Live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
Welcome to Spaced Out Saturdays with me, Dave Cruz from Beyond the Strange. Our weekly feature on spacedoutradio.com will take you around the world discussing everything from the paranormal to the latest conspiracies from the top guests in their fields. We won't leave any story uncovered. Spaced Out Saturdays at spacedoutradio.com starting 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. And hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to the second hour of Spaced Out Radio. Tonight, I am your host, Dave Scott. Good to have you with us. Tomorrow night on the program, we introduce you to Spaced Out Saturdays. Dave Cruz will be in the cabin here, broadcasting from the Great White North via California. Give him a shot. Give it a good feeling. We open up the new weekend. Sunday is Elizabeth Anglin with Spaced Out Sundays. She's doing Psychic Sundays this weekend. It's going to be absolutely great. I'm excited. I hadn't tuned in to the weekends for a long time. Not because they were bad, but because I just wanted to have a break from being on the air and being near my studio. But this weekend, I'm tuning in. I'm excited about the new crew. I'm excited about the way things are looking around here. 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern time, we get things going on the weekend. We want to welcome in everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead. We are also live on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans, and over 160 countries around the world. Good to have you with us. We're live on KTLK, The Fringe FM, Renegade Talk Radio out of Las Vegas, the High Plains Talk Radio Network, and if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club through Gail Shirk tonight. Captain Shirk is relaying the password for Bill. Trichotillomania. Trichotillomania is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers, as Bill sets the password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Now, if you want to follow us on social media, you can do so on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio if you want to connect with me live during the show as well. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can find me on Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. You can also listen to us on iHeartRadio in the United States. Tune in, iTunes. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including joining the SOR Space Travelers Club for $5 a month. You can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store, pick yourself up a t-shirt, read The Encounter online, listen to some Bumblefoot, videos by Contact TV and UFO Seekers, and so much more. Tonight, the first Friday of the month, it's our Keith Andrews night, where we do our feature called The ET Connection. Keith comes in once a month to talk everything extraterrestrial. Keith, welcome back.
Well, thank you very, very much for having me, and that came out extremely well. Welcome to live radio.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, we got a lot of audience questions building up, and, you know, I want to get to Milo's question right off the bat. And he is asking, Dave, were you missing any time after last night? No, I wasn't. I was too busy eating my donut. You know, and it was a good donut. So, no, we weren't missing any time last night. Everything just seemed to be going very smoothly, and we were just doing things. And I had Keith on the phone with me the entire time. So, no, we did not miss any time. Keith, did you miss any time?
Well, yeah, but I always do. But actually, the reality, the other side of that, is the missing time doesn't necessarily happen when you're out and about so much as after you after you get home. Quite often they'll take you once you go to sleep, especially if they figure you're messed up.
Oh, yes.
You know, if they figure you're going to have trouble, they would absolutely do it once you've passed out for the night.
Yes. I didn't feel anything last night. When I went to bed, I was zonked, man. So I don't know if they got me or not. I really don't. They may have. But I don't recall any missing time. Let's get to Char's question. She is saying, Keith, I don't want anything to do with aliens, so are they going to retaliate on me?
That's a viable question, but no. This is going to sound really bad, but you haven't done anything to them, or really good. You haven't done anything to them, so they're certainly not going to retaliate on you. The fact that you're admitting you don't want anything to do with them tells them there's enough other people out there that are either willing or are, shall we say, more, they're easier to cope with, if you will, or easier to work with. So it's very unlikely. They certainly won't retaliate, but it's very unlikely they'll even bother you.
All right, we're going to continue on with your listener questions. Remember, tonight is about your experiences. So I want you to bring your experiences to the chat rooms. Make sure you put them in capital letters, much like Liz did right here. She says, Keith, my friend Jonas is an alien who vibrates at a much different rate than human physicality. He looks like a glowing white praying mantis. Do you know the name of his species?
Well, most people, because there's actually a few different races, a few different mantis style races, which is why people call them mantis. But you remember that funny little language that we dealt with? They depending on what you call what language you're working with, humans call them mantis. Okay. But they use a clicking. They literally, their whole speech pattern is a combination of clicking the mandibles and rustling their wings. Rustling the carapace.
Right.
And, sorry, wasn't built with a carapace, so that part I'm just not able to replicate.
All right, let's get to Kelly's question. And before I get to her question, I want to break down. Kelly is a student of mine, and she's just learning about her own intuition and abilities and so on and so forth. And the experience we had last night coincided with an experience she had last night. So her question is, I would love to know the name of my alien friend that came to see me last night.
Wait a minute, try that again? Her question is which?
I would love to know the name of my alien friend that came to see me last night. She actually got little scratch marks on her arm.
Now that's going to take. I will do what I can to find out. The fact of the matter is that the specific one, to be frank, I don't know who it was right offhand, but I can certainly check around. Because they do have individual names. They are not just,
yes.
They're not a construct, which is what some people have complained about. And by the other part of that, and speaking of Kelly, she sees them sees the Greys as being white. And something I just want to clear up for everybody is that I'm aware of, there's about 15 different colors of Greys. Okay, much like there are various different colors of humans. So it just depends on where they grew up as to what color they would be.
I had the feeling last night, because I talked to Kelly today about it, that there were Greys that came and visited her last night. I don't think she got taken. I think that they were just visiting her because she started to become quite a beacon. And I just had the feeling that they were kind of looking her on over. And, let's face it, sometimes because they're scientists, they're not as gentle as what we think they are or would like them to be. And that was the feeling I got from everything. What do you think when I say that, Keith?
In all likelihood, you're right. That being said, you can bet that they ended up taking skin samples, taking hair samples, that sort of thing. Bear in mind, when they take a hair sample, they clip a very small fraction off the end of a few strands. So it's not like you're going to notice it missing. But the odds of them actually taking her, especially on is it possible that she was completely taken? The answer is yes. It's certainly not something to worry about because I'm getting no sense of any harm being done or any harm being intended.
I don't get that either. The one thing I will say is as she is opening up more and more, and she is opening up very, very rapidly, I do believe that with Kelly in this instance, I remember when I first started working with her, I said, "Are you sure you want to do this? Because you don't have a choice on whether they, whoever they are, say, okay, you're going to stick with spirits, you're going to go into the crypto world, you're going to go into the extraterrestrials, you're going to go into UFO summoning." You don't have a choice what they give you. They just throw a big pile on top of you and say, you know what? You figure it out because you have the ability to do that. And we're left with what we think is a mess, not trying to figure it out, trying to put puzzle pieces together to figure out what it actually means. Some get it, right. Some don't. I still don't get it. I really still don't get it. And I think I am able to get this mix in where I'm starting to make sense. I just don't understand. Now you take someone new like her, where, she liked the fact that there's ghosts around and she could see dead people the odd time and all this kind of fun stuff. But I said, what are you going to do when extraterrestrials come around? Are you prepared for that? And lo and behold, look what's happening.
Yeah. the ironic part of it, and I feel for anybody, I mean, I didn't get the option of, I don't know if it's a benefit or not. I have no idea what it's like not to see them, not to deal with them. I've been dealing with them since the day I was born. But the reality, and you're very right about it, the reality is once you open that door, it's not like you can open it and then close it. Right? Once you open that door, it's open. And it alters the whole, it alters the way that your whole brain chemistry works, making it easier.
All right, let's get to another question here. Catherine is asking, Keith, can you please have your friends fix my left arm? And by the way, she is a contactee as well.
Well, I know they can do it. I'm curious what the problem is, because here's the reality. They can certainly do it. The reason that they hold back is because, how do I put this? They have to be careful when they're doing that, because they don't want to cause added complications such as psychological realignment. Which, by the way, doing a massive rebuild on an arm, if it's just a nerve rewrite, it's relatively easy. If it's a skeletal rewrite, it literally requires an awful pile of pain, and I know that one from personal experience.
Let's move on. Let's move on here to catch up on the questions from Spreaker, or I'll let you finish your comment first. Sorry, Keith.
Yeah. The thing is, can I try and get them to step in and do something with it? The answer is yes. I have had some success on that part, so I will do what I can. I'd love to know more about just exactly what the problem is, because that more often than not makes all the difference in the world. But if Catherine wants to drop me a line and let me know what the Terran acknowledgement is as to what the problem is, then we can probably get something straightened around.
All right, let's move on to Milo's question. He says, this calls for speculation, but in your opinion, how many abducted are completely oblivious to their experiences?
Somewhere around about 80%. The vast majority don't know they're being taken. They end up with odd dreams that they just chalk up to being just that. If they even have the dreams.
Fun times, fun times.
I had a different word for it.
All right, let's get back to Kelly here for a second. She's saying, was I taken the other night then? I got zapped and was in my kitchen and don't remember much.
Well, of course, the real question there is, wherever she woke up will tell you if she was taken, because the odds are that they knocked her out, did what they needed to, as far as taking a blood sample, taking, the necessary readings and what have you, and in all likelihood left her. Now, do I know for certain? Certainly not. I wasn't on that.
Well, the story here behind this was she was picking up some energy, was in her kitchen, and walked over to the window. And I actually went over to her house, and I stood in the exact same spot where she got zapped, because she was standing beside her aloe vera plant. Aloe vera plants have those sharp, pointy edges on them. But I pushed my elbow against that and never really felt a zap. I felt a prickle, but I didn't feel a zapping. And I said to her, Kelly, I said, you look to your left. I said, you look to your left and down into the corner of your yard. And she goes, yes. I said, what did you see? She couldn't recall seeing much there. And right. That happened when she got zapped. So could they have been bringing her back in that spot at that time? Or was this just a quick signal to say, hey, we know you see us, we see you, what do you think of this?
Quite frankly, it could have been either one. Unfortunately, I really don't have a definitive answer at this stage. I do know they very seldom, depending on what they're up to, it's not very often that they remove people for a short period. But if everything was going fine and then she just didn't get that, the odds are, because they don't stop time, they just move quick, that's all. And, the odds are very good that it was a case of the visitation is real, no question there. But the odds are that the visitation was done on site, not off-world. One thing that she should look at is, was she feeling really, aside from the obvious issue of disoriented, but really sluggish, and very optically disconnected? Okay. The reason I'm asking is because of something called a potassium crash. And if she wasn't having that problem, then simply put, the odds are she didn't leave the planet.
Right. Let's move on, and I'll get that answer from her because of the delay in their signal to ours. I will get that answer for you coming up. Let's get to Christoph's question here. Christoph is asking, I have had dreams I was in this huge colossal space station with an artificial atmosphere that looked like a sky with many species. The dream was much more complex than this, but I am curious, there any species that have such technology?
Yeah. One massive one, and it's not one species. He's talking about the consortium, the consortium station. And it is designed that way. The consortium station, just for edification, is a grand meeting hall for all of the shall we say, amicable races. It's also a neutral zone, meaning it doesn't matter how volatile the races are. It is a well-known fact that you do not start a fight on those. Starting a fight amongst your own people on their station is, that's in between individual races. But you do not start an interracial fight.
All right, let's head over to the SOR Space Travelers Club. Robin's question is, why did the aliens visit the Mayans numerous times? Did they perceive aliens that we do today?
Yes. The reason they visited them is because the Mayans were willing to work with them and were actually taking the healing technologies and the socioeconomic technologies and understandings and sharing them with the people. That's why they went to them so frequently. Okay, it wasn't a question of anything, any sort of derogatory thing. It was a case of they were actually doing what they agreed.
All right, let's get to Gail's question. Keith, is it possible Dave's ET visitors did not resume communication with him at the lake because he had you there with him on the phone and may have been a distraction?
Well, technically, yes. But not likely. There was a situation, I'm not going to bother saying who the other parties were. It has happened to me a few times where I've had somebody physically right there with me and they've taken me anyway. So that doesn't tend to stop these guys. If they're going to take you, the fact that you're on the phone with somebody doesn't, on the whole, mean anything. Because what they would do is they drop the call and you'd be left thinking that the phone dropped. So it's not part of the, shall we say, qualifier for them.
All right, this leads to Teresa's question. It's more of a comment, but I'm going to ask it as a question here. So remember, if you want to ask any questions, make sure you type them into the chat rooms or on Twitter in capital letters, and I will pass them on to Keith. Teresa says, it's hard for me to understand Dave's strong desire to go with Carl. I mean, I kind of get it, But I'm not an experiencer of such sorts, so I couldn't possibly understand. But he deserves to get a damn visit at least. And if it happens for him, it better be as pleasurable for him as expected, or else. So this is the way I like to explain it, and it's a terrible explanation. But when you have it once, when you have that experience, that you're there with your own eyes open, that you are conscious. You're not in this dream state where you're baffled. Was it just a nightmare? Was it just a dream? Or did I actually go? When you have concrete proof that this is happening right in front of you, and it happens so quickly, you want it again. And you become fixated on it. Much like an addict would be fixated on getting their next hit from heroin or crack or whatever. You know, like I said, it's a terrible example to give, and I wholeheartedly apologize to anybody who's, won the battle with narcotics. But I don't know how else to explain it. It's an addiction that you want to happen again. Because you have to know, we as humans, we need that confirmation after confirmation. It's like when I saw the landing of the craft, and it was communicating and turning its lights on when I asked it to. Okay, the third time I asked the question out of God's peace, love, and light, just so I know I'm not crazy, can you turn your lights on one final time? And boom, the lights came on again. Right? But when you have an extraterrestrial experience, the first time you're going to crap your pants. I don't care what anybody says. Anybody who says they're going to take this calmly, they're lying to you. Unless they've had lifelong contact and they're used to it and they've got a relationship with certain species. Okay? But when you see it with your own dead eyes right in front of you while you're awake, this stuff isn't supposed to exist according to what we're told. And when you see something that doesn't exist, and it happens in such a short fraction of a time, you crave for it to happen again because you need that confirmation. You need that ability to say, yes, I believe. And that's the best way I can answer that, Teresa. And I hope that's good enough. Keith, would you like to fill in anything there?
Well, that, in all fairness, that about sums it up. The reality is, I've heard a lot, I've dealt with a lot of people that come across and talk a lot about how strong they are and how mentally ready, and, and I get it from every walk of life. It's not just one group. And almost without exception, the second that they see it themselves, or they feel that it's happened themselves, they go into an absolute panic. Okay. And the reason for it is exactly what you said. It's because we're taught this isn't supposed to happen. It's not supposed to be. You're not supposed to have off-worlders. And of course, mankind's arrogance is absolutely, universally renowned that, we are untouchable, is the way the humans carry it. We'll just chase the aliens away if they try and take our planet. And for somebody that is really strongly grounded in the idea that aliens don't exist to be taken, it absolutely shatters that whole paradigm on them. So you're absolutely on the ball there, Dave. Make sense?
Absolutely. And I'm getting an update from Kelly here because she sent me a text message in regards to the point where she got zapped while standing beside her aloe vera plant. She says, "No, I didn't feel that I just got zapped. It was like, wow," and then she walked to her bed and fell asleep. But the aching in her left arm and weird scars thing was from the pics that she sent me, which I saw them, and she feels fine.
Yeah, so the odds are that they didn't take her off the planet at all. Right. But clearly she had a visit. I mean, this is not something that you fake, and you certainly can't put those marks on yourself.
Right. Absolutely. Let's get to Robin's question here in the SOR Space Travelers Club. And Robin, if you saw me, I'm rolling my eyes. Keith, do Dave's ET visitors know he doesn't like gnomes?
Well, it isn't like he's made that a secret. I somehow don't think, the gnomes themselves take offense to it, but, they're not an ET, they're an ancient race. But no, they undoubtedly know that Dave doesn't like gnomes, but they also don't have a tendency of using their, using that fear against him.
Let's get to another question here. This one from Michael McNeil. Keith, do aliens make an odd clicking sound? I know we've already answered that, but I think Mike just jumped into the chat room.
Do all aliens make a clicking sound? Absolutely not. The primary ones do. The grays do, but it sounds like a clicking, but in all fairness, it's the base of the throat. Many of the insectoid ones make a clicking sound, simply because of the way that they're built. Right. And overall, you've got quite the array of clicking, light disarray. Some of them communicate by pheromonal interaction, right, or sonic interaction. Sonic being whistles and hoots. Like the Uka are one. Both the Uka and the Wara speak in whistles and hoots and howls. Right. So the clicking is only with, most of the insectoids do. And I call them insectoids simply because it's the closest thing to a Terran animal that I can come up with.
All right, continuing the questions here, Keith.
Yeah.
Gail is asking, Dave, what stopped you from walking over to your visitors last night or calling them out? Oh, I called them out. I called them out numerous times. Walking over to them, I actually tried. When I saw these white streaks walk between my vehicles, and I saw it twice, and it was about at the 6-foot level, I walked over to my car. I had Olaf Phillips on the phone, and I said, Olaf, you're walking with me, man. You're walking with me because I ain't doing this alone. So I said, so if I go missing or the phone goes dead, I got taken. And he's laughing, and he's like, man, I would love to be with you right now. And I'm like, yeah, that was kind of cool. But no, there wasn't anything by my vehicles. And I can tell you right now, Keith, my implant is starting to bother me again.
You're welcome.
As of about 5 seconds ago. Thanks. So, yes, I was calling them out. Let's get to Robin's question. Keith, do we get visited because there could be aliens on Earth, including what was living before us?
Absolutely. That's not the only reason, but that is very much the case. I separate the difference between them in this fashion. And this I've always held, even when I first started, and I remember it causing a little bit of confusion for you, but I separate them into off-worlders and ancient races. Off-worlders are the ones that come from off-world. They did not originate on Earth. Ancient races are the ones that evolved here. And rest assured, man is not the oldest race on this planet. But they absolutely come because of some of the other races that are here.
All right, let's get to Elizabeth's question. Is Joe's owl an Uka or under the influence of a non-owl consciousness?
Now, that's an intriguing question. Let me just scroll back up to the picture. Oh, there is absolutely no question. That's an Uka. You can tell by the. You can actually tell by the aura around it. The picture's all wrong for it being an owl.
All right, let's move on then. Claudia, finally Miss Claudia, the beautiful Claudia, who has been, I think she's been in detention or something because she hasn't been in the chat room lately. But she's back, and we love Claudia's questions around here. So, Claudia, great to see you again. Much love to you. She is asking, Keith, can you describe the Soul Group? Are they one of the oldest aliens?
Yeah, as in the original Soul Group was, quite frankly, the people that actually built the planet in the first place. Or members of it were the ones that built the planet in the first place. Okay, so, that puts them, well, first and foremost, as far as Earth is concerned, it puts them at about 5.5 billion years old. Mankind has only been here for, as far as I understand, about 6 million. Or a rendition of mankind, anyway. But does that make them better than anybody else? Absolutely not. The Soul Group basically boils down to the first tenets of this planet, and this planet was actually built for them to experience the physical world with limited senses under a family cooperative setting. Family being defined as 2 adults of any race, any gender, governing a home where as many people as the 2 adults combined chose to put under the same roof. Too bad mankind has kind of lost track of what family is at this stage. And don't get me wrong, that is a gross generalization, but it's very accurate, at least in my eyes.
Let's get to Milo's question. Milo is asking, Keith, do you know if there is any truth to the rumor they being the extraterrestrials, recently took the Black Knight satellite out?
Yep, they didn't do it. I know what he's talking about, and it wasn't the off-worlders that did it. With one of the biggest things that you have to look at is if they're going to take out one satellite, they'll take out all of them. Okay, because they don't bother with half measures. This is one of the reasons why, if there was ever an invasion intended from the off-worlders, the war would be over before mankind ever got word it was starting.
All right, let's get to Elizabeth's question. Follow up on the owl question that she asked previous. It's a 2-parter. Do Ukas time travel?
Very seldom. And one thing is for certain. They can only travel forward, which is why they don't tend to do it. Time travel, people keep talking about going back in time. Well, you can look back in time. You can absolutely scry or remote view back through the barrier. But going back in time creates a whole different set of ball games. And it doesn't actually have any real bearing on the planet you started on. Okay. So do they? No, they will disappear for a while. As in just simply drop out of sight and not be heard from. But it's not because of traveling backwards.
All right, absolutely. Let's get to her second question here. Are some of the older races living under the ocean or under the surface of the Earth, or both?
Both. The Earth itself is hollow. Does have an entire system underneath it. And the ocean, well, that's where the merfolk and the sea fairies live. The sea fairies had a heck of a time trying to communicate with humans to start with, because their first efforts were really bad for the humans that were taken. And of course, the sea fairies themselves can't exactly survive above ground any better than or above water rather, any better than what man can survive with their head stuck underwater without an oxygen supply.
All right.
But yeah, they absolutely live in both.
Let's get to Chris's question here. He is asking, Keith, my 17-year-old daughter gets unexplained bruising on her arms and legs. She has been medically tested for anemia and other disorders, and everything was negative. 2 weeks ago, she told me she awoke from a sleep in mid-morning to see a being standing behind a clothing rack. She said it was hiding. It was 5 feet tall, had a black skin-tight outfit on, long fingers, whitish face, and bright, shining, yellowish eyes. She said she was afraid and asked it to leave, and when it wouldn't, she got out of bed, walked towards it, and told it to leave her room. She said it disappeared. My daughter sleeps with 2 pit bull dogs in her room, and she said they were awake but did nothing. They often stare at the walls quietly at night. Does this sound like any off-worlders and could she have been visited? She is a skeptic.
Well, I don't blame her for being a skeptic. The answer is, in all fairness, she was probably looking at a holographic display as far as the one that she saw. Now, that said, that would explain why the dogs wouldn't have reacted, because there wouldn't be any pheromonal discordance for them. The fact that she is waking up with bruising on her arms and legs, and is testing negative for everything else, yeah, frankly, from my standpoint, obviously I can't prove it, but I'd lay odds she's being taken regularly. But they're not trying to hurt her, as it were. Okay, the bruising and what have you is unfortunately a very definitive side effect due to what they're doing.
You know what? Let's expand on this for a second, because there's an important part in here that I think we need to expand on, and that's with the dogs. Yep. I mean, to have 2 dogs in there that are used to it. I remember Samantha Mowat when her and I saw the extraterrestrial in the back forest of our friend's property. She was concerned the aliens were going to go away because, for what she knew, ETs don't really care for dogs. They're scared of them. And yet, I know I have ET interaction happening in my house. My dogs don't react. Do the dogs become used to it? Or do the ETs have the ability to train them or to calm them down, throw them some catnip or something that just kind of ease them into it? Do they give them like doggy marijuana bones or what? What's happening here?
Well, in all fairness, it actually has to do with subsonic resonance. You can calm an animal down by hitting it with the right tone or the right pheromonal pheromone. Because dogs are not, shall we say, the most advanced species that you can run across, they're actually relatively easy to control. Okay, but like I noticed with Chris, he is talking about the pit bull pups staring at the upstairs for about 15 minutes. That is another indicator that something went on that night that they're picking up, but they may well have been controlled or contained, if you will, while they were there in the first place. You know, there are humans that can calm a dog down by simply looking at it and holding up a finger. Off-worlders are no different from that standpoint. You know, the ones that they have trouble with, in all fairness, are cats. Because cats, well...
Cats just don't like anybody. Cats are just pissed off they're breathing.
Well, let's face it, they were never domesticated. Even the aliens have troubles with the cats doing what they're told.
Absolutely. Let's get to Char's question here. Keith, do you know of any pictures or accurate drawings of insectoids?
I've seen a couple of accurate drawings. If you're asking, do I have any right now? No. Although I am now working with an artist that I'm going to get to build a couple of them. I know there are a few. There's a few of the mantis that I've caught wind of that are actually pretty good. But me not being an artist, I certainly don't have them. Somebody that may have, there's a UFO artist that I know of, a guy by the name of David Chase, that may have a reasonable rendition because he's pretty decent at it.
Absolutely. Bill McDonald is very, very talented when it comes to that, too. His alien art is incredible. Just incredible. Let's get to a question from Goddess Michelle at hashtag Spaced Out Radio on Twitter. Keith, do you know why grays look like they do? She says she knows, but wondering if you do as well.
Wait a minute. Why grays look like they do?
Yeah.
Well, aside from the fact that that's how they've evolved, I'm not sure what she's looking for, in all fairness. Of course, the other side of that is I've never bothered looking into the genetic evolution of them. Aside from the fact I know they're not a construct.
So I'm scrolling through Twitter right now, and Robin, in the SOR Space Travelers Club, for bringing up the whole gnomes thing. I'm getting hammered by gnomes pictures on Twitter now. Thank you. I appreciate that. You guys are evil at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Evil. Not just skeptical, evil. How dare you freak me out like that? God, I hate them gnomes. It was started by Trip and Fool. Thanks, Trip. Appreciate that. Shake my fist at you as well. All right. Bob, who has just one of the best beards you'll ever see. Very tight, very tight. He is asking, Keith, are some species we think of being from Earth actually of alien origin? Some say that octopus and dolphins aren't from here.
Well, he is right. There are some species that have been here so long that you'd think that they are sort of look that way. But the intriguing part about the octopus is, you can trace the evolution on this planet. However, where the octopus is concerned, I think I've mentioned it before briefly, something that I've always called an octopod. And the reason for it is because it's a little hard to call them eight-legged because their legs and arms work identically, but they do walk on land, and they look very much like an octopus. The same as with the dolphins are, the dolphins, it's not so much they didn't evolve on Earth as they used to be land-based, and they retreated into the water when everything started to go sour. They could have, in all fairness, had dominance on the planet, but they chose not to.
All right, let's get to Robin's question in the SOR Space Travelers Club. He is asking, Keith, would some aliens be walking among us today, not know about it, and would maybe reciprocate with humans to not dry out as a species?
Oh, absolutely. It's not so much they wouldn't know, let's be clear. It's not so much they wouldn't know they didn't belong here, so much as the other people around them may not know. I know of a few people that I'm absolutely dead certain are not, shall we say, Terran. Okay. But would they mesh with other people, with other humans in order to assimilate a little better into the world, into society? The answer is absolutely yes. Okay, and certainly you may have there may be some that have ended up here, and for lack of a better way of putting it, have absolute amnesia and therefore wake up on a planet not knowing where they're from and do the best they can. Okay, but
right
I was asked a while back if all hybrid. If hybrids know they're hybrids. And in all fairness, very few hybrids actually know they're hybrids. It's like most adopted children aren't told they're adopted. And that can have all kinds of really unfortunate side effects.
All right, there's many in the chat room wondering what an uka is.
An uka is, for lack of a better way of putting it, they are an avian race. Okay, they look very much like owls. They are very definitively carnivorous. Okay, and in a lot of ways, they're similar to the greys from the standpoint of being being basically scientifically inclined, but they're also hunters. Okay, so they haven't got that incredible scientific drive and curiosity that the greys have. And they're not exactly, if you will, a prolific race. But they're essentially a bipedal owl. The adults are usually around about the 4 foot mark. 4 foot is really a tall one. Most of them are around the 3, maybe 3.5. And, do they watch people? Are they studying the social dynamics of the human race? Yes, but they're also studying it from the standpoint of how the human race involves itself with the planet upon which it's growing up.
Mm-hmm. I want to get back to Robin's question for a second here, where he asked, would some aliens be walking among us today? It was reported way back in the 60s and 70s, when apparently these, I believe, I'm not sure if they were Pleiadians, Andromedans, some sort of humanoid extraterrestrial, they loved Las Vegas. And who can really blame them? But literally, they would land their craft. This is the rumor. I'm not saying it's true. Okay, but this is the story that I have been told. That this humanoid species would literally land their craft at Area 51, change into human clothes, and they would go meander down the strip of Las Vegas, mainly at the Sahara, so that way they could hang out and watch people. And they never gambled, they never ate, they never slept, they never booked any rooms, but they just went down to Las Vegas because they could watch people 24/7. Have you ever heard that story, Keith?
Yeah, quite frankly, I have. And especially back in the 60s, back in the 50s and 60s, it was a whole lot easier for them because they didn't have all of the recording technology that would make it a lot harder to do today. Of course, in all fairness, their technology has evolved a whole lot more. I can eliminate unequivocally in one way. We can safely say it wasn't the Pleiadians that came down here, because they came down to wander around, and Pleiadians, like full Pleiadians, would die on this planet. So we can safely say they weren't the ones coming to Vegas.
They came for the party and the drinks.
That's definitely not the Pleiadians. They are not party people.
They like the scotch. We only have a couple minutes here before we got to go to break. Eric is saying in the Spreaker chat room, when we were making fun of cats, hating everything, he said his cat BB is listening and he was not amused. So Aussie Rob follows up with, Keith, are there any feline race of aliens?
Yes, Laborians. They are literally a feline race. And as far as age and lifespan, we're talking about a race that that an individual will just about outlive most of the civilizations that have existed on Earth. because, quite frankly, you're looking at a race that doesn't, because of their regenerative capabilities and their lifespan in the first place, you're looking at people that live, quite frankly, in excess of 10,000 years and then some. Also, you have there are certain of the lichens that are feline based. And as you can picture, I presume, this means they come equipped with claws, which means in a hand-to-hand fight, they don't need to carry a weapon.
Typical cats. Always wanted to scratch. Don't understand how long those things take to heal. It's terrible. Terrible. You think you can trust a cat and it just turns on you. My old cat did that. Scratched me right across the face, about a 4-inch scratch right across my cheek. That pissed me off. Not a fan of cats. You got any cats, Keith?
No, where I live, I'm actually not allowed to have pets. But when I was still with my wife, we actually had 5.
You look like a cat guy.
I get along with them.
I could tell.
I used to have a bumper sticker that said, "The more people I meet, the more I like my cat."
I could see you driving the minivan down the highway with that sticker on the bumper, along with your "I drove the Coquihalla on opening day" sticker on the other side.
Yeah, no, I don't like the Coquihalla that much.
I like the speed limit. I like the speed limit on there. 120. Exactly. It's like Canada's version of the Autobahn. It's kind of fun. Absolutely. Keith, I'm going to get you to hold on. We're going to hop out for our second and final break of the night. Our Keith Andrews is our guest tonight with our monthly feature that we call the ET Connection. Keith is with us the first Friday of every month. His next appearance will be on Friday, September 1st. We love having Keith around here. We love your audience participation. Keep your questions coming. Make sure they are in capital letters so I can find them and Keith could read them right off the bat as well, because that's why he's here, for you and you learning about your experiences. This is all about your experiences tonight. Type the questions in. We want to hear them, just like Chris did. Much appreciate your time. We'll be back for hour number 3 of Spaced Out Radio right after this. Stay tuned in.
We're getting strange on Saturday nights. Hi there, this is Dave Cruz, and each Saturday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, I will take you on a tour of the weird and obtuse on Spaced Out Saturdays, from aliens to Sasquatch and every tinfoil hat in between. We got you covered. Join us at spacedoutradio.com for Spaced Out Saturdays. See you there.
Not ready for bed on Saturday night? Right after Spaced Out Saturdays, hop on over to S4 with Corey Ruiz and me, Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. With S4, there are no limits to what we try and uncover. From government conspiracies to helping clean up the paranormal, no topic is safe on S4. We get to the heart of the matter, of the subjects you want to learn more about. So tune in on S4 starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, only on spacedoutradio.com.
Have you had an experience you can't explain? Would you like someone you can trust to look into it? We have just the place. The SOR Sightlines Report is the place for you to find answers. Whether it's Bigfoot, UFOs, Dogman, ghosts, aliens, or anything strange, the Sightlines Report will get you connected with one of our expert researchers to find out what's going on. All of your personal information is kept 100% confidential. The SOR Sightlines Report, a place for you to find the answers you need. Only at spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4Cop. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
This is Eric Markham, news editor for the Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter Online. We have put together a great team of writers and journalists from all over the world to bring you top-quality paranormal stories From alien encounters to the latest conspiracies, you won't find any of that fake news here. True stories and top-notch reporting as we look to bring these experiences to the mainstream. The Encounter online, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Do you want to know the truth? Do UFOs exist? Are aliens real? Are the governments hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO seekers, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow along with us as we journey across the United States, visiting UFO hotspots and alien hotspots, trying to document the UFO phenomenon. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
Patrolling the Pacific Northwest, we are always on the lookout for the strange and unassuming stories that real people are experiencing. Hi, I'm Vincent Zunza from Pacific North Weird. Me and Alexandra Sullivan have teamed to bring to you those odd stories that never seem to make it into the mainstream. Stories so weird that will leave you scratching your head wondering, is this real? It's as real as it gets with Pacific North Weird. You can watch our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
It's Cosmic Sundays with me, Elizabeth Anglin, in Cosmic Passport. Let me take you down a 3-hour spiritual journey where we will get into everything from ET contact to Psychic Sundays. It's a journey of listening and learning together with some of the best professionals in their fields. You can tune in to Cosmic Passport at spacedoutradio.com every Sunday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and hashtag Spaced Out Radio, and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show. Now, back to the program.
A child grew up too fast, went running wild. Now we don't know who to pray to anymore.
Welcome back to the final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Great to have you with us. Tomorrow night, we start our new weekends here. Dave Cruz will be in for Spaced Out Saturdays. I'm excited to hear this. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a new sound this weekend. It's going to be new flavor, new topics, and Dave's real pro as well. Spaced Out Saturdays with Dave Cruz, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time. And on Sunday, Elizabeth Anglin will go the distance with Spaced Out Sundays, Cosmic Passport. Elizabeth will be having Psychic Sundays, so if you're still wondering if we're doing the readings, yes, we are. It's going to be a great time indeed. 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time, once again, at spacedoutradio.com. We want to welcome in everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead. We are live as well on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. Good to have you with us. We're live on KTLK, The Fringe FM, Renegade Talk Radio out of Las Vegas. And if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell, through Captain Gail Shirk, has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Trichotillomania. Trichotillomania is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers, as Bill sets a password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Now, if you want to follow us on social media, you can do so on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio to connect with me live during the show as well. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, follow me at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can tune us in on iHeartRadio in the United States, TuneIn, iTunes. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. You can listen to Bumblefoot's great music, watch some really good videos by Tim Doyle's UFO Seekers and Leslie Mitchell Clark's Contact TV. Read up on the encounter online, join the SOR Space Travelers Club, and so much more. Everything at spacedoutradio.com. The first Friday of every month, we have the ET Connection with R. Keith Andrews. Keith's next appearance on this show will be Friday, September 1st. Keith, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, and welcome back to all the listeners and the newcomers that are popping in still. I find it really fascinating. You keep questioning whether this is working on occasion, and the further we get into the show, we end up with people I've never seen before. You know,
I think it's great. I love having you on, buddy. I really do. Except, you know what? I'm getting sick and tired. I know I've mentioned this a couple times during the show. Kim Gandy needs to invite us to her R. Keith Andrews party. Apparently, there's a lot of good alcohol, and even the alligators in the lake behind her house tune in. They all float on over.
You know, with the alligators behind her house, you know, the alcohol will make them a little more docile.
Exactly. Might get a new pair of shoes out of it or something. Let's get back to the audience questions here, my friend. This one comes from the Preacher. Keith, you have stated on many occasions that there are off-worlders, etc., that eat humans. What other races are considered edible?
What aren't would be a shorter list. About the only race I wouldn't recommend trying to eat would be the ascetics. And primarily that's because when you break into them, you will burn. And I don't mean they'll be hurt, I mean you will. Basically, the ascetics, they are an insect. But if you actually watch the show, the movie by, I think it was Spielberg, the Alien, those are real, except the extended jaw. You know, that's from their stand. You know, but the rest of the race, on the whole, are edible. I mean, the amoebics are kind of limited as far as who can eat them. But the reality behind it is that most of them are very edible.
Here's an interesting question from Trip. I think he's been shopping at Walmart a little too much. He is asking, since it's summer and clothes are skimpy, I've noticed a lot more people that look like they had a tail or an extra spine bump. Would that be a sign of hybridization?
Well, the tail, in all fairness, very unlikely. Humans, there are still many humans that are born with an actual tail. That was a evolutionary, shall we say, redundancy that has still stayed in place. As far as the extra spine bump, both can be an indicator. However, the reality with the ones that look like they may have had a tail, off-worlders that have a tail won't have it removed, at least not intentionally. Sometimes they lose it because of a fight, but they certainly won't have it removed because of trying to fit in. Humans, on the other hand, have, like actual full-blooded humans, are known to with tails from that.
You're cutting out a little bit on Skype, my friend. You've gone into slow motion. We may lose you here momentarily. I don't know if our connection... Can you hear me, Keith?
Yeah, but you're breaking up partially on me as well.
Oh, well, let's see if we can get this straightened out. Hopefully we can do that here pretty quick. Yeah. Oh, now you're...
Robin's got a question here in SOR. She asks, would the military dress up in gray suits to put fear in humans? And the answer is yes. Absolutely no question there at all. The reality is that is one of their tools to try and convince people that aliens aren't real. I find it fascinating they're trying to convince them of that when they're working side by side with them. I get a kick out of Michael McNeil there, though. He goes, only the real short ones.
There's a follow-up question from Robin, and he says, when I was first born, I was very sick and could have died. I'm not sure, but I think an alien may have saved my life. What do you think, Keith?
In all fairness, that wouldn't be a surprise. Depending on a lot of circumstances. I mean, for obvious reasons, I'd have to extrapolate at this point. But it is possible that an off-world, and especially since that feeling is there, it is possible. The other thing to take into consideration is Robin's will to live is pretty solidly developed. And that could have been the saving grace right there.
Right. All right. Trip is asking for your website.
Well, that is the website I'm trying to get sorted out. Right now, finding me on Facebook is easiest. I've got somebody that is going to be building the website for me, but on Facebook, if you track me down, R. Keith Andrews, you'll know it's me because I've got a hand-carved wooden UFO that I use for a picture. You can also find me on Facebook with Inner Voice Enterprises and Universal Portal of Peace. The website, like I said, I've got somebody that's going to be rebuilding for me and putting it in place, but I'll let you know when that gets done right.
For sure.
Because it used to be, well, it might still be there, which is Inner Voice Enterprises. .com, but frankly, I haven't got access to it. Even though last I knew it was in my name, I don't have any way of doing anything with it, which is why I've got somebody else getting set to straighten that out.
Absolutely. Remember, if you want to ask any questions to Keith, alien-related, about your experiences, we want to hear about them. Put them in capital letters in the Spaced Out Radio chat rooms. Okay, you know where you are, or at hashtag Spaced Out Radio as well. We want to welcome a couple of newcomers. Shift Happens, Wolf Dog, thank you for coming on in. Really appreciate you giving us an opportunity to earn your listening ears. Thank you so much. So remember, if you have questions, put them in capital letters for everyone to see. What are you laughing at? What are you laughing at?
My apologies. I'm looking at this. And Michael McNeil in SOR has put up a picture. Somebody's got a business that is literally called Uka. And the comment he made was, I found a place that serves Uka sushi.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have no idea where this is, but, yeah.
And we have another new listener just popped into the chat room. She was on Twitter moments ago. Karen, thank you so much for finding the chat room on Spreaker and joining us there. Make sure if you're new to us on Spreaker, make sure you give us a follow and like this episode. The more popular we get, the bigger our audience is going to be, and it all starts with all of you. So we really appreciate it because we are here 7 days a week for your live listening entertainment. We're never recorded. Never. Because we just like being live. It's the addiction of radio, man. It's the addiction of radio. So, Keith, while we wait for questions to come in from our audience, all right? While we wait, I want to ask you a little bit more about last night, what happened to me. Was this just a restart of Carl showing up, Carl and friends showing up, or am I going to have to wait probably another 2 years or longer for Carl to make his presence felt again?
I would be inclined to say this is just the start of a new phase that is going to bring this whole thing into the limelight for you. Because the fact that you didn't panic on it, the fact that, quite frankly, you packed up your bags and headed out looking for it, is definitely a step in the right direction, as it were.
Well, as you said last night, they were a little intimidated that I wasn't intimidated.
Well, let's face it. The Greys haven't exactly stayed functional on the planet by having people wander up to them and go, "Hi, how you doing?" You know, I had pictures sent me was there, or if anything was there, because they couldn't see anything, and I looked at it and I pointed out six Greys. I don't know, 2 minutes of looking at it, right? Because they, they're scientists and they don't want to create a problem. They don't want to contaminate their research, if you will. Okay, but yeah, it does feel like a stepping stone, as it were.
This Skype connection's getting worse. God, I hate Skype. This is why I want my own studio. That way I can use a proper phone line. Call anywhere in the world because I have that ability and that power to do so. So the damn Skype lines, gee whiz. Either way, hopefully it's cleared up for right now.
Well, right now you're coming through clear on my end.
Yes, I can. No, Shift, you cannot call in. We don't take callers on this show. Well, very rarely. We did on my birthday. That was a couple of months ago. Too many callers have ruined the call-in portion of this program. You may not like it. I apologize, but blame them, not me. So, no, we do not take callers on this show.
I've done shows before where call-ins come, but unfortunately, it can be, as you've discovered the hard way, problematic.
I remember once I had this troll, when we were still on Blog Talk Radio, I had this troll call up, and it was a young kid, about 15 years old, literally 15, 16 years old, and him and his friends were just prank calling all the shows on Blog Talk, and they didn't realize that when their phone number popped up that I could see it. And so right at the end of what he was saying, he makes some stupid-ass mark about Hitler. And I just calmly said to him, I said, you realize I have your phone number right now. And he's like, And in the chat room, he's like, no, you don't. And I started to read off his phone number, and I read a bunch of digits on it before I got to the end because I didn't want anybody kind of calling him, even though probably should. I said, would you like would you like me to call you right now? And, at the time, we knew a few police officers, and we're like, well, we can get them to call you. And this poor kid, he was just broken after that. He's like, no, don't call the cops. Don't do this. I'm sorry. My friends put me up to a prank. So that was actually the last time I took callers, because I got so sick of that crap on Blog Talk Radio when we were there that it's just it's not worth my time, because there is no real good delay in case someone decides that they want to seek out their 38 seconds of fame and say something stupid or racial or something that we just don't approve of on this show. So due to professionalism, we will not take phone calls on any alternative topic, because we really do not want, to let the trolls out. So that's the reason why we don't take phone calls. So.
Yeah, Cedar was just making a comment in Spreaker that he hates when people call in because they talk too much and they don't get to the point. The call is coming in, and more often than not, like, due to what I do for a living, right? I mean, and I forget, who the heck was it? Somebody mentioned it earlier tonight, but I actually am a professional psychic, and I do it for a living, and when people call, that is the hardest part of all of it, is the people go around in circles. If they ever get to the point, you're doing good. And like you found, you end up with the people that you're like, are you phoning for a reason?
Absolutely. But it's not that I don't like taking phone calls. Okay, I like communicating with people. That's why we call this a talk show. I want people to eventually get their calls in, but until we have a true studio with a call screener, not going to happen. Very rare it will. Very rare we will. I do want to take callers, eventually. Doesn't matter if you're on my team. Okay? I'm rogue, man. I'm rogue. Rogue! Absolutely. Because then all of a sudden, the whole Twitter crowd, the snarky ones, and you know who you are, Sailor Twift, Mr. Skeptic, John Porter. You know who you are. James, with the great hair. I know you guys would be calling in, and you'd be, bringing your snark on the table if you can even talk. So it's all good. Everett has a question at #SpacedOutRadio, and you have to realize Everett is a coffee addict. He's actually trying to invent a system where he can actually just drink coffee with intravenous all day.
That's already been invented.
Yeah, just push the pole, and just have the coffee going straight into the vein. So he says, I want to be abducted, but I need to know one thing first. What alien races have coffee?
Well, humans are the best at it, quite frankly. They do. There are some others that have a variation on it. And, like him, I usually go through 3 to 4 pots a day, so so I can understand the issue of the coffee. But no, they do have their own hot beverages, and I mean, realistically, coffee is one type of bean that is used. There are dozens of different forms of the same drink.
Hold on 1 second here. I got to slap someone here a little bit, and I rarely do this on the air. All right, one of our new listeners, he's a little upset that I don't take phone calls. On TalkStream Live, I'm usually in the top 10. Where are you? Where are you on that list? Don't think so. So when you want to compete with some of the big boys, and we're trying to get to the big boys, then you can talk to me. But you're too new to be pulling some snark in my room. So, thank you. I just had to get that out.
Not a problem.
I like to snark back sometimes.
For me, it usually takes a lot to set me off. I actually had a client the other day that I actually barked at, and well, she was none too happy. You know, normally I take it quite. Oh, I like that. Catherine J goes, "Why is Earth and humanity the bee's knees of the galaxy?" Well, the reason is actually quite simple. Number one, it's because of the triple helix. That is the first part. The human race was built, well, in all fairness, all of life on this planet was built on the triple helix. And the result of that was that it built a neural net that linked the whole thing together, making Earth an incredible repository of information. It's a phenomenal library. The other, and this is what's got the off-worlders both intrigued by humans and, quite frankly, scared to death of them, is mankind has a natural ability to manipulate something that humans call zero-point energy, the ability to modify reality based on will alone. And what the off-worlders are concerned with is if man ever figures out how to work together, remembers how to do it because they did it centuries back. If mankind ever gets back to that point, mankind will be a force to reckon with because of the capacity of physical manifestation by sheer thought. Okay, but right now mankind is so caught up in being afraid of who the next door neighbor is and wanting to, having to be the best and keeping all the secrets to themselves, they can't evolve properly, which does leave the off-worlders a little bit, shall we say, more secure. That's the nice part about it. But that's why this point in the universe is so important to this area.
I agree.
That's why. Go ahead.
I know. I'm just agreeing with you.
They have an incredible. The Galactic Consortium has a very definitive: do not damage the planet, and that includes the people. This is why when people go, well, the off-worlders are trying to screw up the government. No, they're not. Mankind does that quite nicely all on its own. But that's where the importance of it is.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Keith? Did you check out NASA's latest job posting? Did you hear about that or read it online? Apparently they are hiring for about $172,000 a year someone with an astrophysics degree who can keep Earth safe from any alien diseases off our planet.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah.
I wish them the best of luck. And the guy, whoever gets the job, more power to him. He's being underpaid at only $172,000.
And it's not even full-time, it's contract work. Contract work.
To keep her safe, so if he doesn't feel like he doesn't have to do it anymore?
I don't know. Maybe if he gets one of those infectious diseases that's riding around in space, they have to replace him pretty often.
Yeah, no, this would be great. The only problem is, in order to defend against against a disease, it has to show up on the planet. If it's highly contagious, well, we can safely say the people that are researching it are the first people to die. That's brilliant. I love that side of it.
Me too. Me too. I think it's a lot of fun, and I would love to have an opportunity to do that, just in case some aliens actually did come down with some of those diseases.
Oh, they do. But you ain't going to cure... See, the thing you got to remember is the off-worlders that come down, the good ones that come down will come down already having figured out how to inoculate themselves so they won't carry the disease to the human race. And the ones that are coming down to hurt people don't care if they do something to the human race. So I'm not entirely certain why you would look at trying to do it the other way around, but hey, what the heck.
Everett has another interesting question here. He goes, do any aliens have pets?
Absolutely.
Do any of them have humans as pets?
Well, you're not going to like this one, but yes. But that's okay, because there are humans that have humans as pets. You see, the thing that people have that humans have a problem with is humans have no problem taking pets, taking slaves, doing experiments on people, doing experiments on other races, but they get really testy when other races do the same thing to them. Which, don't get me wrong, being on the receiving end of that, not fun. Caused all kinds of problems for me, not the least of which was PTSD. You know, this just hasn't been a fun ride, and that's why when people tell me, you know, when people go, oh, you just talk like this to get attention. Yeah, no. I can think of all sorts of other ways of getting attention that doesn't require it.
There's always talk about people having contact where they have health problems, Keith, and when they get back to Earth, their health problems are solved. I know you've had that happen. You know, love him or hate him, believe him or not, Stan Romanek believes that he had that happen with his right knee that was had torn ligaments in it, and 2 days before his surgery, his doctor checked his knee, and his knee was absolutely fine. Does this happen often?
More often than you might think, but most people just chalk it up to it's a miracle and ignore it. See, where they sort of seem to draw the line, I mean, pure scientists and pure healers don't care what your attitude is like. They'll put you back together. Like a true doctor or a true nurse, right, like human, doesn't care what your personality is like. They are there to help. In their eyes, they're there to help. Pleiadian hybrids are natural-born healers. That's what they do. So they will heal anybody they come across. You know, there are people that don't get healed, and many people, like what they do is they deal with things depending on what happens. Like, for instance, in Romanek's case, you know, in Stan's case, it really boiled down to he was doing a lot of positive work towards the, towards the connection with the off-worlders. Right. And turn around. And they put him back together because he was working so much. Okay. Shift is going to run into a problem. I'm just looking at this, and you know, Shift, you keep pushing, and there is a side effect, but you won't like it.
Just, you know what, it's pretty, honestly, you know, it's pretty weak snark. I'm sure it's alcohol induced, but that's okay. That's okay. We're okay with that.
Well, what I found with alcohol, in all fairness, is it doesn't reveal a new person. It reveals the original.
Exactly.
And not the trained and learned inhibitor.
Well, we got to train him in. We got to train him in because he's brand new. You know, the rookie has to learn the ropes around here. You know, but that's okay. That's okay. We got him beaten ratings, so that's all that matters for Mr. Joe.
Well, the way I look at it is this: we pick on everybody.
Exactly. You know? Exactly. So I want to get. Go ahead.
Weeks
Keith.
ago, I ended up, probably months back now, I ended up in a bit of a, shall we say, not so pleasant exchange with Joe because of something he did, and he was not happy with my response, and we got over it. You know?
Well, you know what? You and Joe just have to have a hair off, because both of you have pretty good hair. You and Joe just gotta, walk the runway and show off your hair. That's what we need between you and you. All right. Hey, I want to give Keith, before we move on, I want to give a shout out here to one of our new listeners brought in by Bob Davis. His name is Canada Dale in the SOR Space Travelers Club. He's from Edmonton. I want to say thanks for letting us earn your listening ears and giving us an opportunity. That really, really means a lot. Thank you so much for doing that. And Bob, thank you for bringing your friend in. That's how we grow. We tell one person at a time, because all of you are really the biggest voice for this show gaining popularity and building a very strong foundation very, very quickly. So thank you so much, Canada Dale and Bob and all our new listeners that are in Spreaker tonight. Really appreciate it. All right, Keith, getting back to the whole injury segment, then this opens up a whole different can of worms now. If they're healing certain people, but if they have that ability, why not heal more? Why not take that child that has been battling leukemia for 5 of his 7 years of life? Why not take that athlete who has to give up the scholarship because of a bad heart?
Well, there's a couple of reasons for it. One, when you talk about leukemia, for instance, there is not a person on this planet that should be suffering from leukemia. Mankind was given the cure for leukemia back in the 50s. And the scientists that it was given to, that were supposed to, under contract, use it for the benefit of mankind, chose to use it for the benefit of their pocketbook. Okay, now, I get flack for that one all the time. No, they don't have it. They're still working on it. No, they're not. They really aren't. That would be the first problem. There are many diseases that shouldn't be a disease. The cure already is here. The other problem is it depends on where the person is. If you take a look at the atmosphere on this planet, because of what mankind is doing, certain areas are worse where it comes to pollution than other ones. And if you go in and, let's say, correct somebody's lungs, but they're living in a place where they're being set back into a cesspool, is there any point in straightening the lungs out in the first place? Okay.
I understand that, and I understand that everybody, has a timeline on how long they are supposed to be on this planet. I do get that. It's unfortunate, but if they have the ability to do that, I don't know. I would like to see certain situations cleared up. And I'm not going to get political with this because we can expand on this very, very quickly. And the last 20 minutes of the show, I really don't want to get down this ugly road because this is one of those topics that could get ugly. But, let's say for people who do get healed, what makes them so special?
That one I can't begin to tell you what the trigger point is. Okay. Because some of them, sometimes it's a case of the right doctor, if you will, comes into the room at the right time and goes, I'm going to do this. Right. It's very, very seldom is it ever a political statement on their end. In Romanoff's case, I have no doubt that it was repayment for a lot of the work he's done. And for the effort he's put in. But in many cases, it's just simply somebody comes in and goes, I'm putting this one back together. It's like people have asked me so many times why the off-worlders don't come and correct the problems and correct the pollution on the planet. Well, it's because mankind isn't correcting it. Like, they're not doing their part. And, you've got kids, Dave. Which works better? getting the kid to clean up their own room, like showing them how, and getting them to clean up their own room, or doing it for them.
No, I fully agree with that. I fully agree that they've given us the answers to a lot of these questions, right? But we just haven't been paying attention, or due to profits, we decide to go in a different direction. I do believe that, right? I mean, if you believe the President Eisenhower deal with the aliens, where the first group that came down said, we'll give you everything you want, everything you need, just don't make any nuclear weapons. And then the other guys who say, keep your nukes, give us a few people, and we'll share some technology. And because of the Cold War, he went with keeping the nukes instead. Right? If you believe that, anything is possible. Anything is possible.
Yeah, there are so many variables, and let's face it, I'm not exactly, even though I'm clearly watched by the government, and the reason for people that go, for the listeners that go, well, no, you're just not that big. I have the CIA show up on my doorstep, and let's face it, they don't have authority in Canada, at least last I checked. But much as I've had to deal with them from time to time, I'm certainly not well placed in the government to be able to tell you what they, who did what with the contracts. What I do know is that the contracts were the races that got here that are dealing with it don't want the planet wiped out, right? But as was proven back during the middle of the Cold War, the off-worlders have the capacity to shut down a nuclear strike without any problem at all. There's just no effort to it. That's one of the things that people don't realize. So when we're talking about the healing of different people, one of the biggest holdups, and this applies to everybody, there are Terran-based healers that can heal people. But where the problem comes in is if the patient does not believe it's possible, the patient's mind will actually be counterproductive towards the healing process. Okay.
Very understandable. Very understandable. Let's switch gears then. And let's say, what about the person, Keith, who... I'm going to take my family here, and I rarely use my experiences as a question, but I will on this one. I don't know of anybody else in my family who's been taken. I'm not saying it hasn't. But do we have a lot of first time, because there is 7.1 billion people now on this planet, do we have a lot of first time abductees where there isn't a link to other family members who have been taken down their family tree?
Absolutely. Absolutely, because again, with the speed that it's working, that mankind evolves, or more to the point, reproduces, it is giving a much wider sampling array to try and keep track of. And of course, because of the tandem problem of rapid reproduction, evolutionary expansion, and 0-point manipulation all happening at the same time, the off-worlders are having to work overtime to try and figure out which way mankind is going to go before mankind gets ahead of itself to the point that they're so to speak, unstoppable without eradication.
All right, let's get to Joe's question here. He's saying, are there any of these beings strictly metaphysical or astral with no physical body?
And the answer to that is there are definitively, like Anuntar, for instance, is something that comes out of the... They are literally... They are a race unto themselves, but they're not exactly what you would consider the organized race. We're not talking civilization. They are a being that people bring in to, quite frankly, hunt down and kill other people or other things, and that is all they do. is they are, if you will, intergalactic not bounty hunters, intergalactic assassins. Okay, they literally don't have a physical form. Which, by the way, makes it really hard to stop them. You know. But as far as the astral plane goes, there's absolutely entities that live in the astral plane that do not have a corporeal structure. You know, you take a look at sparks. They have absolutely no physical form. They're electricity. Your elementals don't have a solid physical form. And yet, back in 2003, we had a fire elemental come through here in the middle of the fire. Right, we've had a number of water elementals sighted in the area. Earth elementals are harder to see. The point, they're rarer. They're actually quite easy to see. That would be the problem. But yeah, there's very definitely different races that just don't have a corporeal substance to them.
I hear you there. When you have, then, these beings that don't have any type of body, would that be what a lot of people consider maybe an angelic being?
No. Angels themselves are, in fact, a solid race. Okay, they can vibrate beyond the ability for mankind to see, which is how they managed to manifest out of nowhere. They absolutely have the capacity to fly via, quite literally, wings. Are they combat capable? Absolutely. But they are not they are a corporeal race. They just happen to have figured out a few things, not the least of which is how to draw, for instance, oxygen out of any atmosphere, even if there isn't one, because their body's literally reconstructed. You know, much like the human body breaks down food in order to give it energy, the angelic body combines different atoms in order to be able to breathe.
Good follow-up question by Don here. Can they be confused with ghosts?
Absolutely. The big difference between the two, ironically enough, is the feel. And that is where the confusion comes, because most people won't notice the difference. Most of the time, when you see a ghost, most angels leave their wings intact. You know, that's sort of one of the markers that they've learned to live with, if you will, or learn to work with. So, I mean, that would be the big issue from that standpoint. And of course, ghosts are literally non-corporeal. But ghosts had a physical form. They occupied a vehicle before becoming a ghost. Make sense?
I'm wrapping my head around it. I'm not going to lie. I'm wrapping my head around
it. Well, in all fairness, Dave, you know, you're in good company. I was told by one person that because of the way I grew up, to me, this is just plain normal. Trying to explain it to other people can sometimes be a bit of a pain in the neck.
All right, let's get to Milo's question here, Keith. He's asking, I've seen videos of humanoids and flying things in the clouds. Is this a hoax? And if not, could be some sort of angel?
No, well, technically could be. Technically, the answer would be yes. Is it a hoax? You know, some of them are. Most of the, some of them aren't. I mean, it depends on which one we're looking at. But off-worlders do use vehicles. Angels usually aren't caught flying something because, well, it's too restrictive. They can fly on their own. Okay, and due to the fact that they can maneuver the way they do, they don't actually require a vehicle to get here in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Question coming in from Man Olive. I have to, because I called him Female Olive one time, so I have to make sure it's Man Olive. Asking, Keith, you said about the triple helix earlier. Do you know about Linus Pauling? DNA structure, triple helix was truth, and Watson and Crick was wrong saying it was only a 2 DNA structure, and yet Linus Pauling admitted that it was a triple helix. What is your opinion on that?
Well, I don't, in all fairness, I don't know the scientists themselves, but back in the 70s, I told the doctors then that they would never understand human healing until they took a look at the triple helix. Okay, and it wasn't until the late 90s, as a matter of fact, either late 98 or early 99, that they finally had developed technology enough that the major research centers finally uncovered the triple helix. So when they first looked at the double helix, it was literally a case of they couldn't physically see the triple. So it wasn't so much they were wrong as just incomplete. Okay, I actually was talking to a chap the other day. I tore a strip off him because of something he said. And when I laid out the situation around the triple helix, he just looked at me and he goes, well, you're right about the triple helix, and therefore you and I will never discuss medication again. I basically told him that their medication was garbage because it was only based on about 2/5 of the information they need.
All right, let's get to Everett's question in Twitterverse at hashtag SpaceOutRadio. How often, then, do people confuse aliens for demons?
Well, here's the problem. Quite frequently, because demons are another race. And they are, quite frankly, all demons are aliens, but not all aliens are demons. Demons themselves are simply another race, and much like humans, come in very different forms. You know, I shouldn't say much like humans, I should say much like simians, aka apes, come in very different forms. So do demons. They come in many different forms, many different shapes, but they're still demons. You know, they're still a different race than the Greys or the Pleiadians or the Nords. You know, so it's quite frequent that if you see something that you don't recognize, humans automatically jump to the conclusion, because of religious evolution and doctrine, they jump to the brilliant conclusion that if I don't understand what it looks like, it's got to be evil.
I understand that, but could that assumption be strictly out of fear?
More often than not, yes.
Because
I don't know how to make
well, no, there's a lot of people out there who tend to believe that everything that is of alien descent is absolutely demonic, evil, or something along those lines.
Absolutely. And this is one of the reasons why you're not supposed to let your work come to a close, because quite frankly, this is one of those stations that doesn't automatically go, oh, that's an evil thing.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a staggering number of people that go, if I don't understand it, it's evil. And sad to say, the greater majority of those people are sitting in the seats telling people on the so-called spiritual path to fear everything, where it is a proven fact that yes, fear exists, but so does love. And it's a balance point between the two that makes civilization grow.
Follow-up question from Everett at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. If all demons are aliens, does that mean religion has already recognized alien life?
Oh, heavens, yeah. They did that a long time ago. They just don't want to tell the rest of mankind. Religion recognized alien life the moment they started recognizing and recording angels. And that is throughout history. Religion has recognized these off-worlders, these so-called gods. If you take a normal human, take yourself, Dave.
Yeah.
Put a Bic lighter in your hand. Yeah. Send you down to the heart of the Congo. Okay. Now, you conceal that Bic so they can't see it. Mumble a few words and flick your thumb on the Bic with them not seeing the Bic, and all of a sudden you got fire in the middle of your hand. You are a god.
True.
You know, don't make the mistake of assuming that I don't believe in God. What it means is religion has a very definitive purpose. To explain the inexplicable until science can figure it out. Because without the religious, without the spiritual teachings, mankind would still be trying to kill each other with sticks and stones. Okay. They wouldn't have evolved. They need that, mankind does require spiritual guidance. But it would be nice if the people doing the guiding weren't teaching them to fear everything under the sun, including their neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
But religion itself, they knew about aliens, they acknowledged aliens as far back as mankind has been trying to build civilization.
I want to get to a question from Tripp, and this will probably be our last question of the night. He is asking then, I just got to find it here. What's your thoughts then, Keith, on everything being a matrix?
No. Everything is contained in a matrix. I mentioned earlier something called the neural net. For the concern of it being a technological matrix, like it showed in the movie, is a cute thought, but way oversimplified. Everything is connected, all of it, and all of it does impact on each other. All of it is manipulatable. The thing is, there isn't somebody sitting there with one finger on a button going, I'm controlling what the matrix looks like. The matrix, the neural net, which is essentially a phenomenal matrix, a phenomenal network, is something that everybody has access to. Everybody has influence over. And this is one of the things that the off-worlders have been struggling to get people to gather, is that by working together, mankind itself used to have the capacity, they used to be a unified group. And mankind had the capacity to generate and to physically manifest everything they required. Everything. Food, lodging, clothing, whatever they wanted. And yeah, we don't have time to go into it right now, obviously, but the society I remember quite well. And when mankind gets back to the point where it's willing to work together instead of trying to kill each other, they can get back to that manifest, back to that capacity. Okay, that's the nice part about it. Make sense?
Absolutely. It is that time once again, my friend, to start wrapping things up. I appreciate you coming back on, Keith, and we'll see you on September 1st.
Absolutely. You'll probably see me more often than that.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll talk in between then once or twice. We may talk after the show. I don't know. Keith, once again, let people know how they can get a hold of you.
The easiest way to find me right now is if you go onto Facebook, look for R. Keith Andrews, and you're looking, my picture is a hand-carved wooden UFO. You can find me there. You can contact me at innervoiceenterprises@yahoo.ca. And of course, I'm pretty certain I've been clear enough with Dave that if you get a hold of Dave, if you can't find me, he'll get you in touch with me. And for pity's sakes, if you've got questions that you want answered for the next show, for pity's sakes, drop me a line. Jeff did today, and, well, it worked.
All right, my friend, I got to wrap this thing up. You sit comfortably. Listening in the background, we got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL, the resident guitar god, rocking Little Brother is Watching. Go see Bumblefoot play with Art of Anarchy. It's one hell of a good band. Formerly of Guns N' Roses. Tomorrow night and Sunday, Dave Cruz is in for Spaced Out Saturdays. Elizabeth Anglin, Spaced Out Sundays. Our new look weekend begins in 21 hours from now. Really appreciate all you tuning us in. Give the weekend a good shot. And I want to say thank you to all of you in the chat rooms for taking this seriously, having some fun with us. Really appreciate you taking the time. I want to thank my team quickly. Everett Thiemer and Eric Markham from The Encounter. Jolene Lammers, Tim Doyle, Web Design. Catherine James, Social Media. We have Bob Davis, our great announcer. Kim Gandy, our Director of Business Managers. Thank you so much. I'll see you on Monday. Mr. Bumblefoot, take us home.